It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take 5 time. I'm Craig Hoffman. He's Logan Paulsen. It's the 5-minute edition of Take Command, and it's quickly becoming where we talk about guys who might just mess around and make the team. Got a couple questions about Andre Jones, the 7th-round pass rusher, Logan, because there's a ton of depth. And when I did my 53 the other day, he did not make it, and that's just because there's so many good edges on this team. But do you think, one, how's he doing? And 2, do you think he could squeeze on?
Yeah, so he's actually had a couple flashes recently. He had a really nice pass rush in one-on-ones Friday, maybe. It's all kind of blurring together. Where he kind of ran this really nice spin route move. He's starting to show a little bit of hand work, which I wasn't expecting. In college, he's like, we talked about this when he was drafted. He's got the height, weight, length kind of measurements to be a really good pass rusher. And so he's a guy that kind of reminds me of James Smith-Williams in a way, like a little bit raw right now, but given a year or two, could be a guy that cracks that kind of, the too deep rotation in terms of edge rusher, defensive end. And I think he's shown enough. He shows a nice physicality. He's very raw still to me. So I do think he has flash. He's a guy that needs to be talked about. But to me, he's not playing better than James. He's not playing better than Casey. He's not playing better than F.A. And all three of those guys are in pretty team favorable contracts. So it's like, like I said, I've talked about Casey. He's had some really nice pressures and rushes off of games. Like, he seems to have taken a step. James is super powerful, super smart, super intuitive. And F.A. rushing from the 3 technique has been damn near unblockable at times. So unless he beats one of those guys out, who I don't see any of those guys giving up the seat, like, even though he's playing really well, it's just one of those. It's how
it's
it
a numbers game.
It's just math. And I think he's a good guy to keep around. I think he has value. I think he has upside. I think he's shown enough that you say, maybe even later this year he's a varsity edge rusher at some point. But as of right now, just with the way the roster is constructed, probably not.
Well, and don't forget, there's also KJ Henry, a same position, who was drafted 2 rounds earlier and has had a good camp and shown flashes in all of the things. But people talk all the time about Montez and Chase being on expiring contracts, and they're up, and what's the future look like? James and Casey are also on expiring contracts, and if those guys go out and play well, as much as we love having them here, they ain't going to stay. They're going to, the big money will go to Montez or Chase probably. Then maybe one of those two also gets signed for medium money. But you could just let him go elsewhere and get paid, and, you hopefully keep, Jones around on the practice squad this year, build him up and have him ready to go next year. And obviously KJ Henry, you'd hope is ready to maybe be a starter, if not like that rotational 3rd guy by next year as a 5th rounder this year. So that's the kind of the ideal scenario in a lot of ways. And it's not just the numbers game of the 53 this year, it's the salary cap numbers game that you're playing over the long term. So it doesn't mean it's a bad pick if he doesn't wind up making the team. It could be just a great long-term investment. But it's going to be really hard based off the math right now, as long as everyone stays healthy, knock on wood, for him to get through.
And he's a 7th-round pick. So if you're getting that from a 7th-round pick, I think you should feel really good about that. And I will say he to me, he's flashed a little bit more than Henry, but Henry is having a good camp. I don't want to say. I'm just saying, if I was going to give an edge right now, it would probably be to Jones, but it's very, very slight. So they're both good football players. They kind of are as advertised. One of them, Jones, was. He's a super senior, comes in, there's a rawness to him in game, but you can tell he understands what it means to be a pro. Same thing with KJ Henry. So I definitely think that's a great point by you, Craig. It's not this year, but if those guys sit around, there was always a thing with Kadarius Toney, for example, where you're there's no way he's ever going to develop into this guy.
Kadarius, when he was with the Giants, you're talking about Shaka Toney.
Shaka Toney, excuse me. Sorry, thank you. Shaka Toney. He's to me, he was always just a little far. He'd flash, but it lacked that consistency. And I feel like these guys have that flash coupled with some consistency that makes you say, all right, if James and Casey want to go elsewhere, F.A. wants to go someplace else next year, they're going to be in a really good spot. So I definitely think both of them deserve to be talked about. And just if they don't make the team this year, don't forget about them, because I think they're going to be good football players.
Yeah, the kind of guys that they get a redshirt year basically. They come back in the spring, and you're like, well, Henry's not going to get a redshirt year, but
Yeah.
he's gonna be up. He's gonna be on teams. He's gonna do the whole thing.
Yeah.
But Jones like gets a redshirt year, practice squad all year, comes back in the spring, and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
you put on 15 pounds. You look explosive. You are rushing like a pro, and hopefully that's the story for him. Over the course of the next 12 months, as we'll be talking about him in a rotation, seeing what the situation is this time during training camp next year. All right, that's it for this edition of Take 5. We'll see you tomorrow for the big pod here on Take Command. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 1067 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah, do what Logan said.
Do it.
Very, very smart.